There are moments in life that feel ordinary until suddenly they are not. Moments when time seems to slow, when your spirit feels pulled, when something deep inside you whispers, "Wait, don't scroll, don't leave, this is for you." And this, right now, is one of those moments. You didn't just click on this by accident. You didn't just stumble here because you were bored or curious. No, something deeper has been guiding you. Something unseen has been aligning events, thoughts, and even your timing just to bring you here, to this exact second, on this exact day, August 1st. And the question you must ask yourself is this: why now? Why you? Because something is about to happen. Something that had been building, something that has been delayed, something that heaven itself has been holding back until the precise moment your spirit was ready to receive it. And now, that moment has arrived. But here's what makes this different. This isn't just a gentle message. This isn't just encouragement. This is urgency. This is intensity. This is Archangel Michael himself stepping forward, not in silence, not in power alone, but in something far more rare. He comes with tears. Yes, tears. And you need to understand how significant that is. Because Archangel Michael, the warrior of heaven, the protector, the defender, does not weep without reason. He does not step into your awareness with emotion unless something critical is unfolding. His tears are not weakness. They are urgency wrapped in divine compassion. They are a signal that something is so close, so fragile, so time-sensitive that even heaven cannot afford for you to miss it. And right now you are standing at the edge of it. Think about your life for a moment. Think about everything you've been carrying. The silent battles, the unanswered prayers, the delays that made no sense, the doors that almost opened but didn't. Think about the nights you questioned everything, the mornings you woke up feeling like something was off, like something was missing, like something was supposed to happen but never did. That wasn't random. That was preparation. Because what you're about to step into isn't just another day, it's a turning point. A divine intersection where your faith, your attention, and your obedience are about to collide with something supernatural. And here's the truth that most people will never understand. Moments like this don't come often. In fact, many people miss them entirely, not because they aren't chosen, but because they aren't paying attention. But you're still here. You're still listening. And that alone says something about you. That alone reveals that there is something within your spirit that recognizes truth when it calls. Even if your mind doesn't fully understand it yet, even if part of you is questioning, something deeper is saying, stay. Because this is not just about hearing words. This is about alignment. This is about positioning. This is about a window, a small, precise, almost invisible window that is opening right now and will not stay open forever. In the next moments, something will be revealed, something will shift, something will lock. But only for those who remain. Only for those who choose faith over distraction, stillness over doubt, presence over impulse. And that's why this moment matters more than you realize. Because right now, there are two forces pulling at you. One is trying to keep you here, calm, focused, open. The other is trying to pull you away, to distract you, to rush you, to convince you that this is nothing, that this can wait, that you can come back later. But you already know the truth, don't you? You can feel it. This isn't something you were meant to come back to. This is something you were meant to receive right now. Archangel Michael is not just speaking, he is pleading. Not because you are weak, but because you are chosen. Not because you are lost, but because you are this close to something that could change everything. And in just a few moments you will understand why. So don't move. Don't skip. Don't let go of this moment. Because what comes next is the reason you were brought here in the first place. Type "I am ready" in the comments if you feel this moment is for you. Blessing code 2020 is now activating around your life. There is something you must understand before you go any further, something that your mind may struggle to grasp, but your spirit already recognizes. Archangel Michael does not come like this often. He does not step into your awareness with emotion, with urgency, with intensity, unless something truly critical is unfolding. And yet, here he is not just present but pleading. Yes, pleading. His voice, usually firm and commanding, carries something different now. There is a weight in it, a tremble, a depth that cannot be ignored. And if you listen closely, not with your ears, but with your spirit, you will feel it. You will feel the urgency behind his words, the compassion behind his warning, the desperation behind his tears. Because this is not just a message, this is a moment heaven is fighting for you not to miss. Why tears? Why would a warrior of heaven, the defender of truth, the one who stands at the front lines of spiritual battle, weep? Because what is about to happen in your life is so close, so fragile, so dependent on your awareness that even the slightest distraction could cause you to miss it. And heaven knows this. Michael knows this. That is why he is not just speaking, he is reaching across the spiritual realm, breaking through the noise of your world, trying to hold your attention long enough for you to receive what has already been released for you. This is not fear. This is not manipulation. This is divine urgency. Think about it. How many times have you almost received something but didn't? How many times did things seem to align, only to fall apart at the last second? How many times did you feel like something was about to change but then it didn't? You told yourself it was just bad timing, just coincidence, just life being unpredictable. But what if it wasn't? What if those were moments where you were close but not aligned? Because alignment is everything. And right now, you are closer than you have ever been. Closer to the answer you've been waiting for. Closer to the shift you've been praying for. Closer to the breakthrough that has been delayed, not denied. And Michael sees it. He sees what you cannot yet see. He sees what is forming around you, what is about to unfold, what is preparing to enter your reality in ways you cannot predict. And that is why he's emotional. Not because something is wrong, but because something is about to go right. But here is the part you cannot ignore. His tears are not only about what is coming, they are also about what could be lost if you are not fully present in this moment. Because this world is full of distractions, full of noise, full of things that pull your attention away at the exact moment it matters most. And the enemy knows this. The enemy does not always need to destroy your blessing. Sometimes it only needs to distract you long enough for you to miss it. That is the strategy. And right now, as you are listening to this, you may already feel it. That subtle pull to check something else. That small voice telling you this could wait. That urge to move on, to scroll, to disconnect. That is not random. That is resistance. That is the exact moment where your focus is being tested. Because what happens next requires your presence. Michael's tears are a warning, but they are also a confirmation. A confirmation that you are not forgotten. A confirmation that something has been assigned to your life that heaven is protecting. A confirmation that even now, there are forces working in your favor, aligning circumstances, opening unseen doors, shifting outcomes in ways you cannot yet comprehend. But here is the truth you must accept. Heaven will not force you to receive it. You must choose it. You must choose to stay. You must choose to listen. You must choose to believe, even when it doesn't fully make sense. Because faith is not about understanding everything, it is about trusting enough to remain when everything in you wants to leave. And this is where the moment becomes real. Because you are not just hearing a message, you are standing in a decision. A decision that seems small on the surface but carries weight in the spiritual realm. The decision to remain focused. The decision to stay aligned. The decision to not let this moment pass you by like so many others may have in the past. Michael is not crying because you are weak. He is crying because you are chosen and because what is about to happen requires your participation. He is crying because he sees your future, and he knows how close you are to stepping into it. He is crying because he knows that this next moment could change everything, but only if you stay long enough to receive it. So feel this moment. Do not rush it. Do not question it away. Do not reduce it to something ordinary. Because it is not ordinary. It is sacred. It is intentional. It is happening now for a reason that will soon become clear. And in just a few moments you will begin to understand why this urgency could not wait. Type "I will not miss this" in the comments if you feel the weight of this moment. Blessing code 3030 is now surrounding your path. There is a reason you keep hearing this phrase echo within your spirit. 2 minutes. It sounds small, almost insignificant, almost too simple to carry the weight that it does. But you must understand something deeper now. Heaven does not measure time the way you do. What feels like a moment to you can be a gateway in the spirit. What seems brief in the natural can hold eternal consequence in the divine. And right now, you are standing inside one of those moments. This is not about a literal countdown ticking on a clock. This is about a spiritual window, a precise alignment of your attention, your faith, your awareness, and divine timing. A window that opens suddenly and closes just as quickly. And in that space, something is released. Something shifts. Something that cannot be forced, repeated, or recreated once the moment passes. This is why Archangel Michael's urgency has intensified. Because he sees the opening. He sees the exact point where your breakthrough is intersecting with your awareness. He sees how close everything is aligning. And he also sees how fragile this moment is. Because timing is everything. Not just what is meant for you, but when you are ready to receive it. Not just what heaven has prepared, but whether your spirit is aligned enough to recognize it when it arrives. And that is where most people miss it. They are chosen but distracted. They are ready but unfocused. They are close but not present. And because of that, the moment passes them by without them even realizing what they lost. But you are here. You are still listening. And that changes everything. Because these next moments are not casual. They are not random. They are not just part of a message. They are the moment itself. The space where something begins to move, not around you but within you. A shift that starts internally before it ever shows externally. A quiet, almost invisible realignment that opens the door for everything else to follow. Have you ever noticed how the biggest changes in your life didn't always come with noise? They did always come with warning. Sometimes they came in a single decision. A single moment where you chose to stay instead of leave, to listen instead of ignore, to believe instead of doubt. That is what this is. This is your moment of decision. Because in these next 2 minutes, something is being tested. Not your worth, not your strength, but your faith. Your ability to remain when there is no proof yet. Your willingness to stay focused when nothing visible has changed. Your commitment to trust that something is happening, even when you cannot fully explain it. And this is where the shift begins. Right here. Right now. And you continue to listen. Something inside you is already adjusting. Your thoughts are slowing. Your attention is sharpening. Your spirit is becoming more aware. This is not accidental. This is alignment taking place in real time. And the more you stay, the deeper that alignment becomes. Because heaven responds to attention. Heaven responds to stillness. Heaven responds to faith that chooses to remain. And in this exact moment, you are giving it all three. But you must guard this moment carefully. Because the closer you get to something real, the stronger the distractions will become. You may feel an urge rising again, a thought pulling you away, a sudden restlessness that wasn't there before. That is not coincidence. That is resistance reacting to your alignment. Because something does not want you to complete this moment. But you already know what to do. Stay. Stay through the discomfort. Stay through the uncertainty. Stay through the questions. Because what is forming right now is not something you can see yet, but it is something you will feel. And when it happens, you will recognize it instantly. A shift. A clarity. A release. Something that settles inside you in a way that cannot be explained, only experienced. This is the 2-minute window. Not just time, but transformation. Not just waiting, but receiving. Not just listening, but aligning. And as you remain here, something is moving closer. Something that has been delayed is now accelerating. Something that has been blocked is now clearing. Something that had been forming is now preparing to reveal itself. You are not early. You are not late. You are right on time. And what comes next will make sense of everything. Type "I stay in alignment" in the comments if you are still here. Lesson code 4040 is now activating your divine timing. As this moment of divine timing unfolds, understand this: every soul that hears this message is standing at their own spiritual crossroads, just like you. And when you choose to support this mission, you are not giving to a voice. You are fueling a movement that reaches hearts right at their breaking point, right at their awakening. The word says, "Cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days." And right now, your seed becomes someone else's answered prayer. I feel led to say this clearly. When you act in this moment, you are stepping into a flow of divine exchange that multiplies beyond what you can see. Your support through PayPal, found in the description, and through the QR code on your screen, becomes a river that carries truth into lives that are crying out in silence. Do not delay this prompting. Do not ignore what your spirit is nudging you to do. So now, and watch how heaven responds in your life. There is something happening right now that you cannot see with your natural eyes, but your spirit has been sensing it for a long time. That tension you couldn't explain. That heaviness that came without reason. That strange feeling that something was shifting, even when everything around you looked the same. That was not your imagination. That was not overthinking. That was the echo of a battle unfolding in the unseen realm, a battle that carries your name. And now, you are being allowed to understand it. Because this is not just about a moment. This is not just about a message. This is about a confrontation between what has been trying to delay you and what has already been assigned to elevate you. Two forces. Two directions. Two outcomes. And right now, they are colliding at the exact point of your awareness. You must understand this clearly. The battle is not over your past. It is not about what you've already been through. That part is already written. The battle is about what comes next. The battle is about your future, your breakthrough, your alignment, your ability to step into something that has been prepared for you long before you even realized it existed. And that is why the resistance have been so specific. Have you noticed how the distractions always come at the worst possible time? How doubt shows up right when you begin to feel clarity? How exhaustion hits right when you are about to take a step forward? how confusion appears right when things begin to make sense. That is not random. That is strategy. Because the closer you get to alignment, the more the resistance increases. Not to destroy you, but to stop you. Because what is on the other side of this moment is not small. It is not temporary. It is not insignificant. It is something that shifts direction. Something that opens doors. Something that breaks patterns that have been repeating for longer than you realize. And that kind of change does not happen without opposition. That is the battle. And Archangel Michael is not standing still in this moment. He is not observing from a distance. He is actively engaged, standing between you and what has been trying to interfere, holding the line where you could not see it, guarding the space where your breakthrough is forming, not fighting against you but fighting for you. But here is the truth that must be spoken. Even with all of heaven's protection, your participation still matters. Because this battle is not won through force. It is won through alignment, through awareness, through your decision to remain present when everything around you tries to pull you away, through your choice to stay grounded in this moment, even when your mind tries to wander, even when your attention is tested, even when your focus feels challenged. That is your role. And right now, you are fulfilling it simply by staying. Do not underestimate that. Because staying is not passive. Staying is powerful. Staying is resistance against distraction. Staying is a declaration that you are not going to miss what has been assigned to your life. Staying is you standing in agreement with what heaven is doing, even if you cannot fully see it yet. And as you stay, something begins to happen. The noise starts to quiet. The tension begins to shift. The confusion starts to clear. Not all at once, not in a dramatic way, but subtly steady, like something is adjusting behind the scenes. That is the battle turning. That is alignment taking hold. That is the moment where what was once blocked begins to open. But you must remain steady. Because this is the point where many people lose it. Not because they are not chosen, but because they lose focus right before the shift completes. They step away too early. They disconnect too soon. They allow distraction to pull them out of alignment at the exact moment everything was about to change. Do not let that be you. You have come too far in this moment to step away now. You have stayed through the pull. You have stayed through the questioning. You have stayed through the tension. And because of that, you are closer than you realize to something breaking open in your favor. This battle is not here to harm you. It is here to reveal your strength. It is here to show you that you are not as vulnerable as you once believed, that you are not as lost as you once felt, that you are not as delayed as it once seemed. You are positioned. You are protected. You are being guided through something that is far more intentional than you can currently understand. And right now, the balance is shifting. What was once pushing against you is losing its hold. What was once clouding your clarity is beginning to lift. What was once delaying your movement is starting to release. Not because of chance, but because you stayed present long enough for the shift to begin. This is the battle in the spirit. Not chaos, but alignment. Not confusion, but preparation. Not delay, but positioning. And as you remain here, grounded and focused, something is being secured for you. Something that cannot be taken, cannot be redirected, cannot be missed because you chose to stay when it mattered most. And what comes next will reveal why this battle had to happen in the first place. Type "I stand in alignment" in the comments if you are still present in this moment. Blessing code 5050 is now strengthening your spiritual position. There is a truth that is about to come into focus for you, something that may not feel comfortable at first. but will bring clarity in a way you have been needing for a long time. Because the delays you've experienced, the waiting, the almost moments that never fully arrived, they were not random. They were not simply bad timing. And they were not because you were forgotten. There has been a blockage, not a visible one, not something you could easily point to or explain, but something subtle, something quiet, something that worked beneath the surface of your awareness. A hidden interference that did not stop your progress completely, but slowed it just enough to keep you from stepping fully into what was already prepared for you. And you felt it, didn't you? That sense that something wasn't fully aligned. That feeling that no matter how much effort you put in, something still didn't connect. That frustration of knowing you were close but never quite arriving. That was not failure. That was resistance meeting misalignment. But here is where everything begins to change. Because what was hidden is no longer hidden. Right now, as you are listening, something is being revealed within you. Not as a loud realization, not as a sudden shock, but as a quiet knowing, a recognition, a subtle awareness that begins to surface. And you may not even have words for it yet, but you can feel it forming. That is the blockage coming into the light. And once something is seen, it can no longer control you the same way. The blockage was never about your worth. It was never about whether you deserved what was coming. It was about alignment, about small, unnoticed patterns, about moments where your attention was divided, about times when doubt quietly replaced clarity, about places where your energy was pulled in directions that did not serve your path, not because you chose it intentionally, but because it was familiar. And familiarity can be deceptive. It can keep you comfortable in spaces that are no longer meant for you. It can keep you repeating patterns that feel normal but quietly hold you back. It can keep you just slightly out of alignment without you even realizing it. And that slight misalignment, that small shift was enough to delay what was already moving toward you. But not anymore. Because now you are aware. Now you are present. Now you are no longer moving unconsciously through this moment, you are fully in it. And that awareness is what breaks the hold of the blockage. Not force, not struggle, just clarity, just presence, just your willingness to see what you could not see before. And as that happens, something begins to release. You may feel it as a lightness, a subtle shift in your thoughts, a quiet sense of calm where there was once tension. That is not coincidence. That is the blockage loosening its grip. That is alignment restoring itself. That is the moment where what was once interfering begins to dissolve. But you must stay grounded in this, because this is where the final test often appears. The moment where things begin to clear, and suddenly there is a temptation to return to what is familiar, to slip back into old thinking, to question what you are beginning to understand, to doubt the shift that is already happening within you. Do not fall into that, because what you are experiencing right now is real. This clarity is real. This shift is real. This moment is real. And it is leading somewhere. You are not just being shown what was blocking you, you are being moved beyond it, positioned past it, lifted out of it, so that what has been waiting for you can finally reach you without interference. And here is the part that changes everything. Your miracle was never canceled. It was delayed. Not because it was taken from you, but because the pathway to receive it needed to be cleared. And that is what is happening now. Not tomorrow. Not later. Now. In this moment. As you remain present. As you stay aligned. As you allow this awareness to settle within you. The blockage is breaking. And as it breaks, something else begins to move. Something that hath been waiting. Something that hath been preparing. something that is now closer than it has ever been before. You may not see it yet, but you are about to feel it. Because when alignment returns, movement follows. And when movement begins, everything changes. So stay here. Stay in this clarity. Stay in this awareness. Because what comes next is not just a continuation. It is the beginning of something you have been waiting for far longer than you realize. Type "I release the blockage" in the comments if you feel this shift happening within you. Blessing code 6060 is now clearing your path forward. There comes a moment in every spiritual journey where everything becomes quiet, not because nothing is happening, but because everything is being decided beneath the surface. And this is that moment for you. This is the space where your faith is no longer just something you say you have, it becomes something you demonstrate by what you choose to do next. Because faith is not proven when things are obvious. Faith is not proven when results are already visible. Faith is proven in moments like this, when you feel something shifting, but you cannot yet explain it, when you sense something is coming, but you cannot yet see it, when everything inside you is being asked to trust without confirmation. And that is where you are right now. This is the test. Not a test designed to make you fail, but a test designed to position you. A test that reveals whether you will stay aligned long enough to receive what is already moving toward you. Because what is about to happen next is not random, it is responsive. It responds to your presence. It responds to your focus. It responds to your willingness to remain when it would be easier to walk away. And this is where many people miss it. Not because they are not worthy, but because they do not stay long enough. They leave just before the shift completes. They disconnect just before the answer forms. They move on just before the breakthrough arrives. And they never realize how close they were, how near everything had come, how one more moment of patience would have changed everything. But you are still here. And that matters more than you know. Because staying is not passive, it is powerful. Staying is your declaration that you are not going to repeat the same pattern of almost. That you are not going to walk away from something just because it has not revealed itself yet. That you are willing to hold your focus, hold your awareness, hold your faith even when there is no immediate reward for doing so. That is alignment. That is strength. That is what opens the door. And right now, something is watching that decision. Not judging you, but responding to you. Responding to your stillness. Responding to your consistency. Responding to the fact that you have not allowed distraction to pull you out of this moment. Because every second you stay, something is being confirmed. Something is being solidified. Something is locking into place that could not fully form without your participation. This is not about perfection. This is about presence. Because your presence in this moment is what allows the shift to complete. Your attention is what keeps the connection open. Your willingness to remain is what holds the alignment steady long enough for what is forming to reach you. And you may feel it now, that subtle tension again. That quiet voice asking if this really matters. That slight restlessness trying to pull your focus away. That is the test reaching its peak. That is the exact point where the decision becomes real. Do you stay or do you leave? Do you trust or do you question? Do you remain aligned or do you break the moment? Because this is the threshold. This is where everything begins to turn. And if you stay, if you hold this moment just a little longer, something will shift in a way you cannot ignore. Not something loud. Not something dramatic. But something unmistakable. A clarity. A realization. A sense of certainty that settles into you without explanation. That is how you will know. That is how you will feel it. Because the answer you have been waiting for is not just external, it begins internally. It begins with a shift in your awareness, a shift in your understanding, a shift in your energy that opens the door for everything else to follow. And that shift is happening now. Not later. Not eventually. Now. But only if you stay. Only if you allow this moment to complete without interruption. Only if you trust that something real is unfolding, even if it has not fully revealed itself yet. Only if you resist the urge to leave before the process finishes. Because you are not just listening anymore. You are participating. You are actively holding the space for something to arrive. Something that has been forming, lining, preparing itself for this exact moment. And it is closer now than it has ever been before. Do not break this. Do not step away now. Because you are right at the edge. And what comes next will confirm everything. Type I will stay until the END in the comments if you choose to remain in this moment. Blessing code 7070 is now strengthening your faith and focus. There is a moment, a precise, almost unnoticeable moment when everything begins to change. Not outside of you first, but within you. A moment where something settles, where the tension that was once present begins to dissolve, where the uncertainty that lingered quietly in the background starts to lose its voice. And you may not even realize when it happens, but you will feel it. That is the divine shift. And you are stepping into it now. Because alignment is not loud. It does not announce itself with noise or spectacle. It arrives quietly, gently, but with undeniable authority. It is the moment where your spirit locks into something higher than your doubts, higher than your distractions, higher than the patterns that once held you back. And once that alignment is secured, everything else begins to follow. This is what has been building toward this entire time. Not just a message, but a transformation. Not just a moment, but a movement within you. As you have stayed, as you have resisted the urge to leave, as you have chosen to remain present even when you did not fully understand why something has been happening beneath the surface. Layers have been shifting. Barriers have been loosening. Energy that was once scattered is now becoming focused. And now, in this exact moment, it begins to take form. You may notice it as a sense of calm, a quiet clarity where there was once confusion, a stillness that replaces the restlessness, a subtle but powerful feeling that something is right even if nothing visible has changed yet. That is the shift. That is alignment becoming real. Because when you align, you do not chase what is meant for you, it begins to move toward you. What once felt distant begins to feel close. What once felt delayed begins to feel imminent. What once felt uncertain begins to feel inevitable. And this is where your reality begins to change. Not through force, but through resonance. Because you are no longer operating from the same space you were before. You are no longer reacting to distraction. You are no longer pulled by doubt. You are now centered, grounded, focused. And that state of being is what allows what has been waiting for you to finally connect with you. This is the divine exchange. You gave your attention and now something is responding. You gave your presence and now something is aligning. You gave your faith and now something is activating. And as this happens, you may feel something rising within you. A quiet confidence. A sense of knowing that does not need validation. A realization that something has already shifted, even before you see the outcome. That is not imagination. That is confirmation. Because the shift does not begin when you see it. It begins when you become it. And you are becoming it now. This is why this moment had to unfold the way it did. This is why you were guided here. This is why the urgency, the tension, the pull, all of it was necessary. Because without it, you would not have reached this level of presence. You would not have stayed long enough. You would not have aligned deeply enough for this shift to take place. But now you are here. And because you are here, something is unlocking. something that was waiting for your full attention, something that required your complete presence, something that could not fully arrive until you were ready to receive it without resistance. And now that resistance is gone, the doubt has quieted, the distraction has weakened, the blockage has lifted, and in its place alignment, pure, steady, undeniable alignment. This is the moment where things begin to accelerate, not in a chaotic way but in a precise, intentional way, like pieces falling into place, like a path clearing itself in front of you, like something that was once complicated suddenly becoming simple, not because the situation changed, but because you did. And that changes everything. Because when you change, your reality responds. When you align, your path adjusts. When you become clear, what is meant for you becomes visible. And this is only the beginning. Because what you are feeling right now, this calm, this clarity, this quiet certainty, it is preparing you for what comes next. Something that will not just be felt internally but will begin to show itself externally. A confirmation, a sign, a moment that reflects back to you what has already shifted within you. But before that arrives, there is something you must remain aware of. Because even as the shift completes, there will be one final attempt to pull you away. And if you are not ready, you may not recognize it. But you will. Because now you are aligned. And what comes next will test that alignment one last time. Type "I am aligned" in the comments if you feel this shift within you. Blessing code 8080 is now activating your transformation. Now listen carefully, because this is the moment where everything becomes extremely precise. This is the moment where what had been building inside you meets its final resistance. And if you are not aware of what is happening, you might misinterpret it. You might think something is wrong. You might think the moment has passed. You might even feel like stepping away. But this right here is the distraction. Not random. Not accidental. Not harmless. Intentional. Because the closer you get to something real, the more subtle the distraction becomes. It does not come as chaos. It does not come as something obvious. It comes quietly. It comes as a thought, as a feeling, as a small shift in your focus that seems insignificant but carries weight in this exact moment. You may feel it now, a slight restlessness, a question forming in your mind, a voice suggesting that this is enough, that you've heard what you need, that you can move on. That is the pull. That is the final attempt to disconnect you from what is about to complete. Because understand this clearly, the enemy does not always try to stop you at the beginning. It waits until the end. It waits until you are aligned. It waits until the shift has already begun. And then it introduces just enough distraction to break your focus before the moment fully seals. That is the strategy. To interrupt completion. To disrupt alignment at the final second. To pull you away just before everything locks into place. And this is why this moment matters more than any moment before it. Because now, you are not just listening, you are guarding something. You are protecting the alignment you have already stepped into. You are holding the position you have already reached. And that requires awareness. Because distraction does not announce itself. It blends in. It feels natural. It feels reasonable. It feels like something you can return to later. But what you must understand is this. Moments like this are not repeatable. They are not something you can pause and come back to. They are windows. And when they close, they close. That is why you feel this tension. That is why the pull is stronger now than it was before. Because something knows that if you stay, if you remain fully present just a little longer, the shift will complete in a way that cannot be reversed. And once it completes, everything changes. So this is where your awareness becomes your strength. Notice the pull but do not follow it. Feel the distraction but do not engage with it. Acknowledge the thought but do not give it authority. Because you are not here by accident. You did not come this far in this moment just to step away now. You did not stay through the earlier tension just to break your focus at the final stage. You are here because something is about to complete. And you are meant to receive it fully. So remain. Remain steady. Remain present. Remain aware of what is happening within you, not just around you. Because this is the moment where your alignment is being sealed. And sealing requires stillness. It requires you to hold your position without reacting, without shifting, without allowing anything to pull you out of what you have already stepped into. And as you do this, something begins to settle even deeper. The restlessness fades. The questioning quiets. The pull loses its strength. And in its place there is clarity. A clear, undeniable sense that you made the right choice by staying. That this moment is real. That something has completed. And when that happens, you will feel it. Not as excitement. Not as noise. But as certainty. A quiet, grounded certainty that does not need proof. That is how you know the distraction has passed. That is how you know the alignment has held. And that is how you know you are now ready for what comes next. Because what comes next is not another test. It is the beginning of the manifestation. Type "I resist distraction" in the comments if you stayed through this moment. Blessing code 9090 is now sealing your focus and protection. And as this moment of resistance breaks and alignment seals, hear this deeply: there are countless souls standing on this same edge, feeling this same pull, but without guidance, without clarity, without a voice to lead them through. When you release your support through PayPal, you are not giving to a message. You are becoming part of a divine flow that carries light into those exact moments of struggle. The word declares, "Those who sow in tears shall reap in joy." And right now, your seed becomes a covering over someone else's breaking point. I feel this strongly for you. Your action in this moment is not ordinary. It is prophetic. The link in the description and the QR code on your screen are not just access points. They are doors for you to step into divine partnership. Do not hesitate. Do not delay. Act now, and let your giving become a living testimony of faith in motion. There is a moment right after resistance fades, right after distraction loses its grip, where something inside you reaches a point of no return. Not dramatic, not loud, but absolute. A moment where something that once held you no longer can. That is the breaking point, and you are standing in it now. This is not a breaking point of weakness. This is not collapse. This is not loss. This is the kind of breaking that leads to release. The kind of breaking that frees you from what you didn't even realize was still holding on. The kind of breaking that separates who you were from who you are becoming. Because every delay, every distraction, every moment of doubt you have moved through in this experience has been leading to this exact point. A point where the old pattern can no longer sustain itself. A point where the energy that once pulled you back loses its influence. A point where something deeper within you rises and says, without words enough. And when that happens, chains begin to shatter. Not physical chains. Not something you can touch. But internal chains. Mental loops. Emotional ties. Subtle attachments that kept you circling the same space without even realizing it. And now, as you remain present, as you stay aligned, those chains are losing their structure. They are weakening. They are breaking apart in ways that may feel almost invisible but are profoundly real. You may feel it as a release, a lightness that wasn't there before, a sense that something has lifted even if you can't explain what it was. It is not your imagination. It is the breaking. Because what was once connected to you is no longer able to hold the same position. What once had influence no longer has authority. What once delayed your movement no longer has the strength to continue. And this is where everything begins to accelerate. Because once chains break, movement begins. New movement. Unrestricted movement. The kind of movement that does not feel forced or heavy but natural. Aligned. Effortless in a way that feels unfamiliar at first, because you are no longer carrying what you used to carry. And this is why this moment matters so deeply. Because you did not just stay, you allowed the process to complete. You did not just listen, you remained present long enough for the shift to move through you fully. You did not just resist distraction, you moved beyond it. And because of that, you are no longer standing where you started. Something has changed. Something has shifted. Something has broken. And once something breaks at this level, it cannot simply return to what it was before. It is the power of this moment. You are not going back. Not mentally. Not emotionally. Not spiritually. Because you have crossed a threshold. A point where the old version of your awareness can no longer operate in the same way. A point where your perspective has widened, your clarity has deepened, and your alignment has strengthened beyond what it was before you entered this moment. And this is where you must recognize something important. The breaking point is not the end. It is the beginning. Because what breaks away creates space. Space for something new. Space for something aligned. Space for something that could not fully enter your life while the old structures were still in place. And now this space exists. Right now. Within you. Around you. And what fills that space next is what changes everything. Because nature does not leave space empty. Alignment does not leave space unfilled. And heaven does not create space without sending something to occupy it. That is what is happening now. Something is moving into that space. Something that has been waiting for the exact moment when the old had fully released. Something that could not arrive until the chains had broken. Something that is now closer than ever before because there is nothing left to block it. And you may feel a shift again. Not tension this time, but anticipation. A quiet awareness that something is approaching. As something is about to reveal itself. As something is about to move from unseen to seen. And that feeling is real. Because what comes next is not internal anymore. It begins to show. It begins to manifest. It begins to take form in a way you can recognize. And you are ready for it now. Because the chains are gone. The resistance has passed. The alignment has held. And the space has been cleared. So stay in this moment. Stay in this awareness. Because what comes next is the answer. Type "I am free" in the comments if you feel the release. Blessing code 1010 is now activating your freedom and forward movement. There is a moment after the breaking, after the release, after the stillness settles, when something begins to move in a way that can no longer be ignored. Not within you this time, but around you. Not just a feeling, but a formation. Not just alignment, but manifestation. And that is where you are now. Because everything that has happened up to this point was preparation. Every moment of staying. Every second of resisting distraction. Every layer of clarity that unfolded within you, it was all creating the conditions for this exact phase. The arrival. And understand this clearly, miracles do not always arrive with noise. They do not always come with immediate, undeniable proof. Sometimes, they begin as a shift so subtle, so precise, that only those who have remained fully present can recognize it. And you are in that position now. You may begin to notice it as a change in your perception. The way something suddenly makes sense that didn't before. The way a situation feels different, even though nothing visible has changed yet. The way your thoughts become clearer, more direct, more certain. That is not random. That is the first layer of manifestation. Because every external shift begins internally. But it does not stop there. As you remain in this state, as you hold this alignment, something begins to extend outward. Circumstances begin to adjust. Timing begins to align. Small, almost unnoticeable details start falling into place. A message, a thought, a realization, an opportunity, something that feels simple on the surface, but carries weight when you look deeper. That is how it begins. Not all at once, but unmistakably. Because what is meant for you does not need to force its way in. It arrives naturally, seamlessly, as if it was always meant to happen this way. And the only reason you can recognize it now is because you stayed long enough to align with it. That is the miracle. Not just the result, but the timing of it. Because there are moments where something could arrive, but you would not be ready to receive it. And then there are moments like this where everything aligns perfectly, where your awareness, your presence, your clarity all meet the arrival at the exact same time. That is what makes this different. That is what makes this real. And you may feel something shift again now. A sense of calm certainty, a quiet confidence, a knowing that something has already begun, even if you cannot yet see the full picture. That is your confirmation. Because the miracle does not always announce itself. It reveals itself, step by step, layer by layer, moment by moment. And as it does, you will begin to see it in ways that are undeniable, in ways that feel natural, but carry a deeper meaning, in ways that reflect back to you everything you have just experienced internally. Because what is happening now is not separate from you. It is connected to you. It is responding to you. It is the result of your alignment. And this is why this moment had to unfold exactly as it did. Because without the stillness you would not have noticed it. Without the clarity you would have questioned it. Without the alignment you would not have recognized it. But now you are ready. Now you are aware. Now you are in position to receive what is already beginning to take form. And here is what you must do next. Do not rush it. Do not force it. Do not try to control it. Because what is arriving does not require effort, it requires allowance. Allow it to unfold. Allow it to reveal itself. Allow it to move in its own timing, knowing that everything is already aligned for it to reach you in the way it is meant to. Because the moment you try to rush, you break the flow. The moment you try to control, you disrupt the alignment. But when you remain in this state calm, present, aware, everything continues to move exactly as it should. And this is where your trust becomes your strength. Not blind trust, but grounded trust. The kind that comes from knowing you have already felt the shift. The kind that comes from recognizing that something has already begun. The kind that does not need constant proof because it has already received confirmation. And as you stay in this, something will happen. Something that makes it clear. Something that shows you without question that this moment was real. That this shift was real. That this miracle is real. And when it does, you will remember this exact moment. You will remember that you stayed. You will remember that you trusted. You will remember that you did not let the distraction pull you away. Because this right now is where it began. Type "I receive my miracle" in the comments if you feel this moment. Blessing code 1111 is now activating your manifestation. Now that the shift has begun, now that the alignment has taken hold, now that something has started to manifest, there is one final truth you must understand. Because even though the miracle is moving toward you, even though the path has been cleared, even though the resistance has broken, your role is not over. In fact, your role is becoming more important now than ever before. Because what happens next depends on how you respond to what has already begun. You see, many people believe that once something starts to manifest, their only job is to wait, to sit back, to observe, to let everything unfold without intention. But that is not alignment. That is passivity. And passivity is what breaks momentum. What you have stepped into requires awareness. It requires intention. It requires you to remain in the same state that allowed the shift to happen in the first place. Because the moment you lose that state, you risk disconnecting from the very flow that has just been activated. And this is where your responsibility becomes clear. You must protect your alignment. Not aggressively, not forcefully, but consciously. Because alignment is not something you reach once and keep forever without effort. It is something you maintain, something you honor, something you choose again and again, moment by moment, especially after a breakthrough begins. And right now, you are in that space. So what does that mean for you? It means you must stay aware of your thoughts. The clarity you feel right now, do not allow it to be replaced by doubt. The calm you feel right now, do not allow it to be disrupted by overthinking. The certainty you feel right now, do not question it just because you cannot yet see the full result. Because what has started is still forming. And formation requires stability. It requires you to remain steady while things arrange themselves around you. And that may feel unfamiliar, because you are used to reacting, used to questioning, used to trying to figure everything out before it happens. But this moment is asking something different from you. It is asking you to trust the process you have already stepped into. Not blindly but confidently. Because you have felt the shift. You have recognized the change. You have experienced the alignment. And now you must remain in it. That is your role. Not to force what comes next. Not to chase what is already moving toward you, but to hold the position you have reached, to remain grounded, to remain present, to remain open. Because the moment you try to control what is unfolding, you step out of the flow. The moment you try to rush the outcome, you disrupt the timing. The moment you begin to doubt what you already know, you weaken the alignment. So stay where you are internally. Calm. Clear. Turn. Because that state is what allows the manifestation to continue. And you may notice something else now. A heightened awareness. A sensitivity to what feels right and what does not. That is not coincidence. That is your discernment sharpening. Because as the miracle begins to take form, you are also being guided in how to move with it. What to accept, what to ignore, what to follow, what to release. And this guidance does not come as loud instructions. It comes as subtle knowing, a feeling, a quiet sense of direction. And you must trust that, because that is part of your role now. To listen inwardly, to respond intentionally, to move in alignment with what you already feel to be true. And as you do that, everything continues to unfold, without force, without struggle, without confusion. Because you are no longer out of sync. You are no longer disconnected. You are now moving with the flow instead of against it. And that changes everything. So do not underestimate this moment. Do not think your role is small. Because your awareness, your presence, your willingness to remain aligned is what allows the miracle to fully arrive in its intended form. You are not separate from what is happening. You are part of it. You are participating in it. You are holding the space for it to complete. And because of that, it will. So stay steady. Stay clear. Stay aligned. Because what is unfolding now is not temporary. It is the beginning of something that will continue beyond this moment as long as you remain connected to it. And you are ready for that, because you have already proven it by staying. Type "I hold my alignment" in the comments if you are ready to stay in this state. Blessing code 1212 is now sealing your clarity and direction. And now this is the moment where everything comes together, not as an idea, not as a possibility, but as a sealing. Because what you have just experienced, what you have just stayed through, what you have just allowed to unfold within you was not temporary. It was not symbolic. It was not just a message meant to inspire you for a moment and then fade away. This was activation. This was alignment. This was a divine encounter that has now reached its final phase, the sealing. And sealing is different from beginning. Because when something is sealed, it is no longer vulnerable to interruption in the same way. It is no longer easily shaken by doubt. It is no longer something that can be casually dismissed or undone. It becomes established, proven, confirmed within you at a level that goes beyond emotion and into certainty. And that is what is happening now. As you stand in this moment, as you reflect on everything that has shifted within you, there is a quiet realization forming. A realization that something real has taken place. That something has changed in you, not just around you. That something has been set into motion that cannot simply return to what it was before. That is the sealing. And with it comes a blessing. Not a distant blessing. Not something you have to chase or wait endlessly for, but a present blessing, a living, active movement that begins now and continues forward because you chose to stay aligned long enough for it to begin. You may feel it as peace, a deep, steady peace that does not need explanation. You may feel it as clarity, a sense that things are no longer as confusing as they once were. You may feel it as confidence. Not loud or forceful, but grounded, certain, unshaken. That is the blessing settling into you. And as it settles, something else begins to happen. Your path begins to respond. Situations begin to align. Moments begin to connect in ways that feel intentional instead of random. Because what was sealed within you is now extending outward into your reality. This is where your miracle continues. Not as a single event, but as a process that unfolds in layers. A process that reveals itself step by step, confirming again and again that what you experienced here was real, and that it was only the beginning. But before you move forward, there is one final truth you must hold on to. Do not forget this moment. Do not reduce it. Do not question it later when things begin to shift externally. Because your mind may try to explain it away. It may try to return to old patterns of doubt or logic. It may try to convince you that this was just a temporary feeling. But you know better. Because you were here. You felt it. You stayed through it. You allowed it to complete. And because of that, it is now part of you. So carry this forward. Not as something you constantly ally, but as something you trust. Let it guide your next decisions. Let it influence how you respond to what unfolds. Let it remind you that you are not disconnected, you are aligned. And as long as you remain in that alignment, what has begun will continue. Because this was not the end of something. This was the beginning. The beginning of a shift that will continue to reveal itself. The beginning of a path that is now clearer than it has ever been. The beginning of a miracle that is no longer approaching, it is here. And it has your name on it. Type "I receive" and seal this miracle in the comments if you accept this moment fully. Blessing code 1313 is now permanently activated in your life. And as this miracle seals over your life, understand this truth: every word you have just received is not meant to stop with you. There are souls right now standing at the edge of their breakthrough, just like you were, waiting for a voice to reach them in their moment of urgency. When you sow into this mission through the PayPal link in the description or the QR code on your screen, you are not giving to a channel. You are igniting a chain of divine encounters that carry light into the darkest moments of others. The Lord declares, "Whoever sows generously will also reap generously." And right now, your seed becomes a key that unlocks healing, clarity, and awakening in lives you may never see, but heaven records. I feel this deeply for you. This is your moment to act, not later, not eventually, but now, as a response to what God has done in your spirit. Step into this prophetic act of giving and let your obedience become a river of blessings flowing back into your life. Release your seed now and watch how heaven multiplies it beyond your understanding.